guys. So, welcome to Suitcase Divas. This is episode 31. My name is Denise Diabaldi with Redbirds Travel.
And I'm Cheryl Garcia with ABCD Adventures.
Yeah, so, on this episode, this was a fun one, Cheryl. We went out to Childress Vineyards to the winery out in Lexington, North Carolina. How fabulous, right?
It was so nice because we knew this was on our list to do, and you kind of want to do it on a pretty day. So we were able to decide the day before, hey, tomorrow's going to be beautiful. Let's take a road
88
trip.
and sunny. It was actually a little bit toasty,
It
but
was,
we were
it
just
did.
like, let's go there. Let's do it. That's the great thing about what we do. We can just pick up and go where we want to go, do what we want to do. Don't be jealous.
Yeah.
Okay, so a little bit about this vineyard. So it opened its doors in 2004. NASCAR team owner Richard Childress, he fulfilled a longtime dream. He grew up in the days when he first began racing. NASCAR is big around here. So he started out in California, and then when he was racing out there, he would visit the wineries with friends. And so he looked in California, New York, places to open different vineyards because he wanted to do his own vineyard. But then he chose farmland in Lexington, Kentucky, which is like 5 miles from where his big NASCAR racing operations is. So it's situated in Yadkin Valley, just like right at the beginning, only 45, 50, and less than an hour from us.
Less than an
So
hour,
it turned
yeah.
out to be fabulous location. Good job, Richard. But Yadkin Valley is known for having over 70, like what, 40, 70 vineyards right in that area. So they feature over 70 acres at Childress Vineyards. Pretty amazing. So like let's talk about when we roll up in there. What were your first thoughts? Because I've been there before, you never have. So what were your
Right.
first thoughts coming
So
up in there?
it's absolutely gorgeous. I was really like in awe of how they stuck with the theme of the what would you call it? The Tuscan villa type.
I would say that, yeah.
And it was throughout. Like this wasn't just an outdoor decor kind of thing. It
It's
was
gorgeous.
throughout the entire grounds. It was really, really pretty. You know what's funny? And we did talk about this. There wasn't the sign for the villa or for the vineyard was a little further away from the actual building. So of course we always look for a way we can take a picture of the sign. It is just one of the things when we first walked in, there's not a lot of signage
That's true.
kind of explain where you are because there are a lot of buildings when you first come
Well,
in.
they have the shops up there to the right, and that is a bit confusing. They didn't have that back when I went. My first visit was
Right.
like 5 years ago, so it's a little bit different now for sure.
So, and if you didn't know, you might pull into the shops, or you have to go through the gates to actually and go kind of like a little winding road to get to the vineyard. The signage I did when we left saw it's tiny, so it's not, and it blends in with the nature, but also which is beautiful for
But if you
aesthetic.
get past the signage and then you roll up into this gorgeous Tuscan looking vineyard, then you're like, shit, we've arrived. Like, this is
Right.
it. We're here. There's
So
a
I will
fountain out
say,
front. It's gorgeous.
oh yeah, when we were walking in, just how beautiful. They had little patio seating on the outside that they were semi-private because it was one table in between kind of like little column type things. So
Yeah,
you could almost feel like you were in your little own nook. Um, and then when you walk in, it was absolutely gorgeous.
gorgeous.
I was very impressed. Again, there's no signage. We actually didn't know where to go to ask. They obviously
Well, I
didn't.
kind of knew from last time, but you're right. There's not a lot of signage.
Right,
Because
like,
the tasting room is in the gift shop, which is also different.
and it's in the back, so it's not the very first thing you see if you were to go into the
But
gift
it's not
shop.
hard to just browse around and kind of get the lay of the land. It's all gorgeous and it's set up beautifully. And the reason that I was a little lost is they've changed shit around a lot since the last time I went there 5 years ago. When I went there, when you came up into the main building, the bistro was up there then they do have a gorgeous lounge off to the right. They've got another fountain when you walk in, a water fountain.
Mm-hmm.
And just very upscale looking, gorgeous grounds. Everything was beautiful. But so then they moved the bistro restaurant. She said this all happened during COVID. That event center that was outside used to just be an open air event center. They've now enclosed all of that, and that's the bistro now. So the restaurant moved separate, and that is an event center. You can do weddings, you can do whatever. So it did change around a little bit since the last time I've been there, but it's gorgeous. I mean, it is a beautiful vineyard. I'm impressed with the way that it looks. It's more upscale.
Yeah. It did have different levels. So like Denise said, when you walked into the main building that is right off the parking lot that you first come to, that's where you'll find your gift shop, your tasting. They have their wine slushy bar, which was absolutely amazing. Off to the right was like a tap room. I don't remember what that one was called, but it opened up later in the day because we went earlier. So that was more of an evening. And towards the back where the restaurant used to be, do you remember what she said that was now?
So that's kind of like an exclusive maker's mark. If you're wine of the month club, then they do like private tastings. I believe they also open that up to like brunches and tastings on pairings on Saturdays and Sundays.
So you have that in the main building. And then they did have an upstairs that she told us was where the bridal
because they do weddings there. That's where the bridal suite, like where the bride would get ready and the bridesmaids and stuff like that. And then the offices. She said there are some offices up there, but that's kind of, nobody really goes up there unless you've got like some kind of shindig going on at the actual location.
So then
the whole location's gorgeous.
Oh, absolutely. When you left that building and went outside, either back through the front or through one of their side doors, there was a path that led down to the bistro restaurant, which was fairly large and open.
It was huge.
It had plenty of seating and everything, but it was still big. So before we kind of explored the rest of it, we wanted to, let's talk about us exploring first, and then we'll go into the tastings. So we did kind of walk around. We didn't quite go into the bistro just yet. We went later.
We're just getting the lay of the land.
Yeah. So one of the things I noticed, there's a second level that was like they called the lawn. There was a new corner cantina, which is a concession style service down on the turf grass.
Mm-hmm.
It was gorgeous down there. Open.
It is.
They had umbrellas already, super easy to open. There was the little lake. I don't know what you would call it.
With a fountain and the little walkway out, and there's the geese out there. They're like, "Don't feed the geese." And then the sign was like, "Please watch your children. No swimming. Please watch your children."
Right. I did find that the corner cantina is only open on Saturday, Sunday. It wasn't open when we went, but I could see why that would be beneficial to have that down there, so you don't have to keep going. The only way down there that we first saw was clunky kind, like it was. What would
you can't really be handicapped and do these levels of stairs, or it would be challenging. Even like we talked about our friend Shannon going, and she recently had ACL surgery. Even with crutches, even with a walker, it's not easy to navigate. They're big step stairs down. It's gorgeous if you have absolutely no ailments. It's gorgeous, but it would be difficult to navigate your way around if you had any kind of mobile impairment.
So I did, of course, ask because I'm like,
we always ask, right?
And I will say there's not very good signage at all other than obviously handicap parking is identified when you first come up, but there's no directions of what to do if you have a mobility issue. So I went and asked someone, and then at the slushy bar, and she had to ask someone else, like, hey, where does a wheelchair person go? And they asked me, well, what's your purpose? And I was like, to explore. Basically, what it came down to is they do have an elevator in the main building that will take you down to the like lawn patio area, but you don't have access to the restaurant if you're down there. You would have to go back up and down through the elevator, or you have the option of parking around the back near the patio. It is lower, and there is handicap parking back there. But again, you're kind of wherever you are, you're stuck there unless you're using the elevator. They do not label that like wheelchair accessible this way or accessible access this way. That's one of
But I
the
think if you did call ahead, that's kind of what they said. Like, call ahead and we can get you where you need to be. They were very nice about it. And
they were, but this is something that people don't.
You're passionate about. I
Well,
get it.
and if you have any type of accessible issue for something like this, I understand going to an amusement park, checking out a hotel. There are things you should call ahead for, but visiting a public place like this, you shouldn't have to call ahead to see if they're accessible. That's asking more of your future guests when you should be incorporating that in your facility anyway. And they have it.
I do see your point. I do see your point. But when we did ask about it, I feel like they were pretty receptive to like give us information.
Right. Oh, for sure.
So,
I'm just letting those out there know that and then this is good feedback for the vineyard as well. Like, hey, you're not really kind of meeting the needs of certain guests.
Maybe signage, more accountability.
The signage they did have was not very visible. It would,
but I would say you could still go there. You could absolutely still go there. It's just
and when we talk about accessible resources for those that need that, it's not always in a negative light or saying that this is not a great place to go. What it is,
no, I would say this is a fabulous place to go. We just have to dig a little deeper. That's all.
And it's something that we need to let others know. So when they do want to venture out, they know what to expect. Because
absolutely,
you're showing up at this place and not having any clue of how to be prepared. This is just me letting my accessible needs.
I can see you're pretty passionate about it, and I understand that, and I love that about it.
Right, for sure. But they were accommodating. They do have it. I think they just need a little bit more tweaking to make it more accessible, friendly. But I do think if you were to show up there and need a little bit of assistance, they would absolutely help you out.
Absolutely. Everybody there was super sweet. Everybody was super nice. So then if what we did end up walking over after we did, so there were a couple options. I will say this on the okay, so you did want to mention the bistro, but we went there after we did our wine.
Yeah, so let's talk about the wines and the way we did. So
there was a couple options for
wine part though before we get to the options that we chose.
Okay, so I'll say Childress Vineyards features over 70 acres of their vineyards, and they have a broad range of over 30 wines to appeal to both the introductory palate, which would be Cheryl,
yes,
and the seasoned taster, which would be me. Mm-hmm. So it really was a fun tasting, and it was a little pricier than, some of the other vineyards we've been to. But I will say the quality of wine,
absolutely,
it earns that $35 tasting. Because I mean, some places in Yadkin Valley, you can get like 6 or 10 little tastings for $12.
Right.
We got 4 tiny, like 2-ounce pours for $35. But the wine is amazing. There wasn't a single one. I didn't taste all of yours. You may have tasted all of mine.
I think I did taste all of yours, yeah.
The wines were top notch. Like, they were better than most, like maybe all of the vineyards I've been in yet.
It was one of the best tastings that we've done in the samples.
I preferred their wines over anyone I've ever been to in that Yadkin Valley area, which I haven't been to all of them, but I've been to 10 or 15.
Yeah.
And I would say Childress takes top leaderboard for the tastiest wines across the board, whether it's white or rosé or reds. It is just, they're all delicious.
So we had the option choosing between tasting and a flight. So you want to tell us what a difference is between a tasting and a flight?
Yeah, sure thing. So like if we were going to go into the tasting room, which is also the gift shop, which there were so many fun things there.
They had many fun
things. Like, I'm glad that I had my wits about me and just like, do not buy because I have bought some stuff, but I was there on a mission to do the podcast and do the tasting, so I didn't get sucked in, but the gift shop is fucking fabulous.
Mhm.
So much fun stuff. So you could choose to, and then they've got a gorgeous, everything there is gorgeous, by the way. But the tasting room, it's got all the wine bottles behind it. Then it's got the bar. They have you set up with your little whatever you want to choose for your tastings. They kind of give you an option. And then the I'm gonna call her sommelier because she is just behind the counter and she's very knowledgeable, and she's gonna walk you through each one of the 6 wines. You get to pick 6 if you go into the tasting room, and they're 1-ounce pours for $35. So then she's going to tell you about the wine and give you kind of all the deets. The other option is to go over to where the wine slushy bar is outside the fountain area. And then that is where you get to pick 4 2-ounce pours. And then you can go out onto the grounds wherever, by the fountain, over by the bistro. They have, like you said, multitudes of different fabulous options to sit out and just enjoy the vineyard and do the tasting at your own level, like on your own level. You just,
Right.
they've got little, I don't know if you can see up close,
We'll
but they
post a
kind of give
picture
you
with it
notes.
too.
So they kind
Yeah.
of give you notes, and we can take pictures and post them. But so the 4 that I did, of course, Dee is a red girl. So I went with the red. And what did you go with, Cheryl,
I,
for
of
your
course,
tasting?
went with the whites. Now, I will say the difference between these two your tasting and your flight at this vineyard was you didn't get to choose your wine. You either chose wet red, white, or a mix. You didn't get to go through all the previous tastings and places I've been. They give you like a list of maybe 6, or if you're a white person, a white
You can check
wine
boxes. I
person,
want to try this. I want
yeah,
to try this.
they'll give you a choice of like 6 or 8 or 10, whatever it is, and you get to pick the ones you want to sample. Both of these, we did not have an option to select the wine that we were sampling. That it was already a predetermined
But
list.
it ended up being fabulous. And I will
Right.
say, with the one that we chose, we ended up going with the one
The
where we
flight.
just picked our 4, like we got the 4-pack of whatever we wanted. And but the one thing I will say, which is pretty freaking cool, is it comes with 4 little tasting glasses in a box, and you get to take home all 4 of the little
Yes,
tasting
that's
glasses
gonna
as a
be.
souvenir.
Which
Yeah.
I love, because I do collect. I always get a wine glass when I go to a vineyard and taste, and I collect them. With the
Yeah.
tasting, you got a regular size wine glass, stemmed wine glass. With
But now that
flight,
was kind of like a Rydell decent, like these are stemless. The ones we got were
right,
stemless. The ones, if you go into the tasting room, that's a regular Rydell drinking
a
wine glass.
stemmed wine glass, yeah.
Yes, long stemmed.
So those that was just difference between what
And
they
there's no
did.
wrong way to do it. I would
Correct,
go back
yeah.
into a tasting there too, but we wanted to go out and enjoy the sun. Like we got, it's like we're spring, and then we get an 88-degree day, and we're like, hell yeah, let's go out and sit in the sun and enjoy, sip in, and we'll record our podcast. So that's the route we chose, but there's really
Right.
no bad answer there.
Yeah. So let's talk about the wines that we tasted. Like Denise said, she did the red box, is what I'm going to call it, red list, and it came with 4 different types of red. And I did the sweet whites.
Yep.
Sweet wine. Let me say mine was sweet wine, not just whites.
Yes. Yes.
So do we want to talk about what they were?
Yeah, so we kind of bounce, and I guess we'll put a snippet in the end. So the first one of
Well,
my reds
before you
was,
start that, can I tell them the way they have it set up? I'm gonna see in the box, they have a piece of paper on the bottom in 4, it's got a grid on it with each
Mhm.
wine. I didn't realize they put the glass that matched that grid on top of the thing. So when we sat at our table, I automatically pulled out all 4
Yeah,
of my
newbie
glasses. I was
over
getting
here.
ready to line them up because I wanted to read the paper as I was drinking it. I like to hold it. And Denise looked at me and she's like, I don't think you're supposed to do that.
I was
So
like, how are you gonna know what's what if you just
exactly,
mix them all up?
I was able to
This was
tell,
kind of
but
like the
just
aha moment. Yeah.
yeah, just FYI, if you do the flight and you have the box, don't take it out because you won't be able to tell always.
Or take it out strategically as
Correct,
I
like
did
you did.
and know
Yeah.
where everything goes that you're drinking.
I
It's
just
either
jump right
or,
in.
you know?
Yeah. All right. So let us know about your reds.
Okay, so my reds were amazing. I started out with the Barrel Select Merlot. So that one was considered supple and harmonious with accents of herbs, blackberries, cherries, smoky aromas, and it was a soft tannin finish and a silky and smooth. And it absolutely was. Merlot is kind of like my go-to jam. I do like it a lot, and it was delicious. It really was. I have nothing but good things to say about the Merlot.
Nice.
So, what was the first one you tasted?
Mine was the American Riesling, we were both actually impressed with this
Yes,
because,
honey, because I love a Riesling.
and I'm not a huge fan because most of the Rieslings I've had, while they are a little bit sweeter, they are usually dry.
They're
This
crisp and a little
was
dry.
dry.
This one would I would say was medium bodied, and it was not sweet and it was not dry. It was middle of
Right.
the road perfection.
Yeah,
For
it
anybody
actually was.
that, yeah, it
So I'll
was
read you the
fabulous.
description. I'm only going to read, I probably only read this one, but this was something that I did catch a difference in when we were doing it. The descriptions between red and white. So this was fresh, fruity, and vivid personality of this off-dry white wine bursts with peach and floral aromas. Actually, that one wasn't pretty bad. Some of the other ones. But I did notice a red wine is described so eloquently. Like there's so much description to a red wine. White wines don't have that. It was just very interesting the difference in the way they describe those.
Well, true. And red wines typically are more complex notes,
Right. Yeah.
just because of the way that.
It's more romantic, like the way the descriptions are in the red wines, I think. But what was your second one?
Oh, so my second one was, and these are all Barrel Select Cabernet Sauvignon. And so this one, also medium acidity, and it was good. This one says vintage flavors that glide between dark notes of fruit, earthy herbs, tobacco, and it's complex in structure and depth.
See, very good description.
And it was delicious. I did like it. I like Cab Sauv. I'm
Yeah.
a red girl. There was nothing wrong with it. It didn't stand out in the pack, but it was. I would absolutely, if somebody handed me a glass of it, I'd be like, "Fuck yeah, it's delicious." It was delicious.
Nice. So my second glass was Sunkissed Peach, which I think you tried the peach, right?
I loved the peach. It was not super sweet like some of the fruity wines.
Right.
And I'll give you an example. I love Aldi wines, but their fruit ones, like the blueberries, the strawberries, they're so sweet.
Like
And a lot of
syrupy
people
sweet?
love that. I didn't think that the what?
No, I mean like the Aldi ones are like syrupy sweet. Because that's how
They're
I
pretty sweet.
describe. Yeah.
They're
These
pretty
are
sweet.
right. This
But
Sunkissed
this
Peach,
peach was
it
light and
was.
crisp.
And it
So I
wasn't
liked it a lot.
very syrupy. I really think this is great. It would be great in a sangria. If you were to
Agreed.
do throw it. This is a great summer drink. Chop up some peaches, throw it in there. I think it's very light, great for sitting outside.
Yes.
It's one you could sip on all day and not feel icky, like too much sugar at the end of the day. Uh,
Correct.
and on the sweetness scale, this one, which actually all of them but one were at 3 out of 5 on the sweetness scale. This one did have some acidity to it. That's what it says on the paper, but I didn't feel like it had any
I
strong.
thought it was lovely.
Yeah, I did too. It was pretty light. So what was your third one?
So then my third one was the Barrel Select Pinnacle. So this one was really interesting because when you first take a taste of it, it tasted one way, on the front of your palate, but then it gave a completely different complex flavor on the back of your palate, which not a lot of wines do that. I've only had a couple of other wines do that. So it is saying it's versatile and medium bodied. Pinnacle boasts bright cherry flavors, and also cedar and spice with notes of cedar and spice. So it just as a full balanced finish, and it was It was really interesting. I even had you taste it. What
I
did you
did
think?
taste it because I remember when we were tasting it, as I swallowed it, I was like, wait, was that a whole different flavor after you swallow
It's
it? Like
really
it
cool.
was very unique. I had personally never had one like that finished way different than it started. So and it was very noticeable. It wasn't like just a subtle hint. It was a good front to back kind of.
I liked it. It was different.
Yeah.
It's very different. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so. So my next one was the Sun-Kissed Blackberry. Again, I think especially come summer, a lot of your sweeter wines are heavy. I mean, they're all mostly fruity flavor, but you get all these berries. This one was I really liked the flavor of the blackberry. It wasn't very overpowering. Again, it wasn't syrupy sweet because as you start to
Right.
get into those darker berries, sometimes it can feel very sugary. This one did not.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
actually thought if you mix this blackberry with the peach and threw in blackberry and peaches, you would have an amazing summer punch.
I'm there for it. Yep.
Yeah.
And then we're sitting around your pool. All
Right?
right. Sounds like a
That
plan.
was, yeah.
You know what? You know what was interesting? When I was to saying how amazing all these wines were, Nick was like, "How come you didn't bring any home for me?" He's not a wine drinker, but I didn't bring any home. But next time, that just gives us
You're
another
right.
reason to go back there.
We usually sometimes will come home. I don't know why
I
we didn't
know.
buy anything.
I think that I don't know. I guess we were just wrapping up and we felt like we needed to do more for the show. I don't know why
Right.
we didn't
Yeah.
buy.
So what
We
was your
just never went
final?
back into the
That's
shop.
true. We didn't go back in the shop. So what was your
So that's
final
must have been
wine?
what happened. Yeah. So then we're on my last one.
Yeah.
My last one was delicious as well. So that was the Barrel Select Sangiovese, and it says bright and luscious. It is brimming with ripe fruit flavors, medium body, and it boasts acidity with notes of cherry, leather, and cedar. So again, these are things like the tobaccos, the cedars. They're gonna be heavier, but none of them. And I think I had you tried this one too. None
Mhm.
of them were overwhelmingly dry because I know you
Oh,
don't
I
really like
agree.
dry.
Yeah.
And I don't mind dry. I do like dry, but none of these were exceptionally dry.
Right.
So I loved all of my reds. They were all delicious.
Yeah. So my last one was a muscadine sweet red. And
I did not try that one.
you did not try this one, although I wish you had because on their sweetness scale, and I will say again, every winery we've been to, their scales slightly vary, but
Yeah,
this one was a 4 out of 5 on sweetness. And while this one was the sweetest of them, it still
yeah.
was not syrupy. I do like a muscadine wine.
I should have been brave and tried it.
But I will say there are most muscadine wines tend to be on the heavier, syrupy, sweet side.
Agreed.
This one was not. I kept going back and sipping this one. I will say to me, like any other muscadine wine, this is not something you like. This is one you sip on. You would sip throughout, like sitting up by the pool in the evening. It's a summer. I do feel like it's like a summer wine. It was light, but I really, really like this is probably one of my favorite muscadine wines that I've had. And I've tried a lot. And this was probably one of my top 3.
I don't like muscadine wines at all,
Yeah.
but I should have tried yours. Maybe next time. Well, this just gives us another reason to come back.
Right. And I'm assuming they switch them out probably seasonally or, periodically because these would not be like what I would expect to try in the winter. I would expect something slightly
Right.
different. So we definitely need to go and we need to go back, period.
Yeah.
Before we move on to our final thoughts, I do want to point out one thing that they had that I absolutely loved. We didn't get to try it. They had pretty much a really nice wine slushy bar. I have noticed over the years, you see more and more wine slushies at the vineyards. It's usually 1 or 2, maybe 3 different flavors. They had like 6 or 7. Like that whole bar behind the bar, they had like 3 or 4 here, 3 or 4 here. I don't know, I
Yeah.
don't remember if all the flavors were the same, but the amount of machines they had was the most I'd seen.
Yeah, they had like 8 or so. Yeah, there was a lot
Yeah.
of slushy machines. And
And
that would be a fun
I will say, if
flight.
you like wine slushies, here at Childress, they also sell their packets where you can make your wine slushy. You can either choose, and most places that have a wine slushy, they will sell the mix and then the 2 bottles of wine or 1 or 2 bottles of wine, whatever they're using in it. And you can buy it as a package or just the mix. I have actually bought those And it is easy. You can make it at home. It's not going to be the best as if you were making
Well,
it in that frozen machine, but on a
yeah.
summer day, those wine slushies are awesome. So I was really impressed with their wine slushie bar.
Yeah, it was good. And they do have some upcoming events too. They have a Wineryville coming up on the 27th at 7 p.m. And then they also have a Mother's Day brunch if you're interested, May 11th and 12th from 10 to 4 p.m. You do need to make reservations, but they have a lot of great things going on there throughout the summer months. And I believe they don't do food trucks because they have the bistro, but it is a I encourage anybody to go out to Childress. I really, really enjoyed it. The grounds are beautiful. Yeah, it was a little bit higher end of a flight on the cost side, but the quality of their wine, like we couldn't find a wine we didn't like. And we've been
Right.
to other wineries where we're just like, not feeling it. Everybody was nice, but the wines were not good.
Yeah.
So the wines here were delightful. Some of the best wines I've ever had. And that Riesling that we bought a bottle of,
Right.
that's what I should have brought home because that was delicious. And it's chilled, good for the summer months, also sitting around the pool, hanging
Mhm.
out. So I definitely I love this vineyard. What were your final thoughts, Cheryl?
I thought it was gorgeous. I absolutely think if you are planning, if you're within the area or something, like I said, it's about 45, 50 minutes from us here in Concord, right outside Charlotte.
Yep.
It's definitely worth it for a day trip. Especially if you're doing some type of celebration and you want to dress up and you want that ambiance and you want those pretty pictures, I
Yes.
absolutely recommend going to this place. Because
Yep.
the vibe of it is so elegant and it was gorgeous. And
Agreed.
all the wine was great. And I agree with Denise. It is on the higher end of what we have sampled before, and their bottles were on the higher end, but the quality was also on the higher end. So you're getting what you paid
Exactly.
for sure.
You
So
pay
just go
for
in
what you get.
knowing you're not getting a regular $12, $16 flight or sample, but you're getting good quality wine. So I
Yep.
highly recommend you check it out for sure. I enjoyed it. I'd go back.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Two thumbs up.
Yeah. All right. So I think that's all. It wraps up
Yeah.
our adventure to Childress Vineyards.
Yeah. Go check it out.
Bye, guys.
Bye.